We're hooked up in turn 2 and still showing the green flag on the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch, rolling into turn number 2, presented by Quaker Steak and Lube, the official watering hole of the front stretch. Get over to Quaker Steak and Lube at Council Bluffs. Sights, sounds, smells. We've been talking about it all weekend long at the World of Wheels car show, and I think after that, I'm going to have to run over there on Monday or Tuesday and get some food, because there's only so long I can talk about the great wings before my craving is just overwhelming.
Yeah, but you're a high-tech guy and one of them newbie type of people. I'm sure you're going to have Grubhub just there tomorrow probably.
Yeah, but I'm also a tightwad. I don't want to pay for Grubhub delivery when I can just put my car in neutral and go right down the hill. Get over to Quaker Steak and Lube at Council Bluffs and enjoy all the great everything that Quaker Steak has to offer. Sitting out at the World of Wheels car show on Sunday on March 10th, doing a bunch of interviews, and a big thanks to Don's Auto Repair for bringing us all of our interviews this weekend. Yeah,
Don's Auto Repair is located at 125 East 1st Street in downtown Papillion. You can call them at 402-331-0897. The mechanics at Don's Auto Repair service air conditioning, brakes, check engine lights, exhaust systems, oil changes, timing chains, water pumps, and most types of general repair and service. Let Don's Auto Repair take care of your vehicles. Again, Don's is located at 125 East 1st Street in downtown Papillion. You can call them at 402-331-0897, and they are open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5.
Joining us on the show now, a couple of cohorts of the Four Corners Fire and Safety Team out of Eagle Raceway. We are already talking spring training.
Yes,
but it's
sir.
not what we would typically talk about spring training on a sports talk show.
Well, probably not. So this will be our second annual welcome to basically all motorsports enthusiastic people, whether you're a driver or a promoter, someone that actually does some of the things that we do. We're kicking off a fire and safety training out at Eagle Raceway again. So we got some great events coming up as far as like live fire training, extrication. We're going to be doing some track med stuff as well. We have a guest speaker, Jay Mesner, who travels around with, High Limits and the World Outlaws and some of the USAC shows coming down, also presenting for us. So we look really forward to it. We should have a pretty good-sized crowd. It's a free event, free food for people that participate during the training. But, yeah, it should be pretty fun out there.
We're talking with Ben and Jake of the Four Corners Fire and Safety Team. And if you guys hadn't heard about it before, so a lot of tracks are going to talk about how they've got the best fire and safety team in the industry. But I think if you did a driver's poll, it would easily come out to be Eagle Raceway. What you guys do, the depth you go into, the training, the exercises, the situational awareness that you guys take advantage of, everything you guys do relieves one big stress out of a driver's night is, am I going to be okay at this track if I get into a wreck? I say it every Saturday night. I don't say it enough. You guys are actually the best in the business. To watch you guys react, take care of somebody. Unfortunately, I've got to see you up close and personal working with somebody. It scared the living bejesus out of me. I hope I never have to see it again, but I wouldn't want anybody else down there with your guys' crew when somebody gets into a serious accident.
Yeah. No, thank you. I appreciate that, Dan. And, yeah, unfortunately, we have been tested more than one occasion out there. I think 3 or 4 major events that are life-threatening, and we've had to fly people out of there before. And thankfully, our training has kicked in, and we've come out on the right side of those incidents, and so has the patients and other people involved. So I don't like to always kind of like tip our hat, but that training does pay off. And that's why we're having this event again on the 7th, not to try to tell people how to do what they should be doing, but just what we're doing, and it's worked. And these are the examples that it has worked, and maybe it'll help them out.
I know I've been around the racing game forever, and for the last several years, Eagles had a couple deals, probably more than their share.
It felt like it, hasn't it? We kind of, I don't want to say got picked on necessarily, but we've definitely been tested. It's a bull ring. It's a fast track, and it's just simply getting faster and faster. With these 305 sprint savers, race savers now, they're running some of the same lap times, I'm told, as the 360s did back in the heyday in the 90s, which is amazing to see again.
Yeah, but I mean, you've had some of that oddball stuff. You know, you had an official hit on the front straightaway, which is way out there. I used to work the front straightaway for a lot of years.
Mm-hmm.
You had the car come up where now you've got the guardrail at the pit entrance. You know, you've had some of those oddball deals. And, I mean, I can go all the way back to Mike Cisak getting hit.
Sure.
I mean, I've got a lot of history down there at Eagle too, but you guys have had more than your share to deal with.
Yeah, we have. I mean, we've even had some things that maybe fans wouldn't be aware of patients in the stands where we've had time-sensitive issues where it was like diesel therapy to get them into the hospital, not just, the guys on the track and in the infield, and even some of the staff. Last year we had an issue with a staff member, had a pre-detonation of a firework that went off and had a big issue there, and that was during Nationals already, which is a pretty intense weekend, and then you compacted that with some sort of like a freak accident. It was like, oh my gosh, like here we go. But that's going to be some of our training that we talk about, is always being ready, who's designated to be ready at all those times, because obviously we do need a rest. We do need a cycle out sometimes during those bigger events. And that's something that we're going to try to focus on and use that as an example, that, hey, not all 10 or 12 or 5 or 6 you need to be ready, but at least 1 or 2 people have their head on a swivel to watch everyone else, because you never know what's going to happen or when it's going to happen, whether a track exiting the car and Dukes a hazard or a firework goes off. So
that's what happened with the firework. Ben was in the ambulance dealing with a seizure patient. I left the ambulance and went to go get more fire extinguishers. We heard the explosion, and I get on the radio and I'm like, what was that? And I was looking in the pits, like, did a car blow up? No, someone blew up in the infield, and we weren't in the infield. But one of our methods of training isn't training bottom or top down, it's training sideways. So that you don't just have a Ben and a me that knows everything. We all know everything. So that, because we're not always down in the infield. We would like to be, but we're not. So.
Yeah. I want to back up just a little bit, because it's something that, unfortunately, in our industry, a lot of change happens after the fact. You think of the safety changes on a national level after Dale Earnhardt Sr. was killed. I could think of the safety changes that happened on a local level after – who was the driver that was killed at Crawford County Speedway in a fire?
Rick.
Dwight Rick was killed. It's after the fact. You guys do it. From what I've watched and I've seen, you guys are proactive rather than reactive.
Yeah, absolutely. So unfortunately, some of it is still always going to be reactive because you don't know everything. But we try to be as proactive as absolutely possible. Again, with this training coming up on the 7th, we also meet every month and do some sort of training on top of our regular monthly business meeting. We'll also have another kind of like refresher, a little bit more layered, robust training right before Nationals kicks off, because we got 100+ sprint cars from around the country. To me, what I've been doing this, a little while now, it's amazing how much different things are just from drivers coming from different states. What I see Texas guys doing compared to the guys from Pennsylvania, and what we need to be aware of what they're bringing to the track, their fire systems, their own safety aspects on things. There's a lot of that stuff that really surprised me once I got into it. And yeah, we also try to advocate with, some other companies, Speedway, EMI, Assassin Engines with Roger, and some other folks about, hey, what can we do, going forward? We had some issues with this once or twice, and maybe not need to change the whole course of things, but what can we do to be more proactive, to keep cars safer? And right now, what really makes me nervous is, we've had some fires, things like that, and now we're starting to really get into pushing the fire suppression systems in the car. Those are awesome. But one thing we haven't really been able to address is the height of some of those cages, and how much those drivers really stretch their necks and how their heads are coming actually out and above the roll cages as they're flipping and rolling. There was a driver, Mike Boston, a few years back. Unfortunately, he's kind of a taller guy anyway. And when we got to him and we were kind of surveying the damage and got him packaged away, we looked back and you could see a perfect little 6-8 inch dome in the dirt where his head just smacked it.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my goodness, that's a little intense. So
Yeah.
we're hoping we can get some of these other manufacturers to take notice of that and just keep changing things. But there's a cost there. It is sometimes reactive, but being proactive, doing some training, just talking to people will go a long ways.
Yeah, but one thing you can never figure out, excuse me, is you're talking about his neck stretching, but you got the belt stretching through his whole body, and I mean, there's so much of that stuff that, Dan talked about. Sometimes it's all reactive. Some of the stuff that happens, you can't imagine
Mm-hmm.
until it happens. Then
Yes.
everybody's trying to fix it right away.
Yep.
But God, who'd ever thought that? you know?
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
What is it? Are they building these cages shorter for aerodynamics or weight or?
I think I don't know if necessarily that aerodynamics as much. The taller cages you'll see, and some of the guys run like a lot of the wingless classes and stuff. There are starting to be a lot more different halos involved in that class as well, which is great. But on the other side of that is you only want to trap a driver in a car so tight too. A lot of the guys want the open space. They want to be able to peel out and get out of there if something does happen. So we got to find that kind of equal balance there of safety, but also extractability of the drivers and for us guys to get in there. God forbid we ever had to do anything. So thankfully the fire suppression systems have come down in price. They're more affordable, and the guys are starting to do that a lot more. Now if we can start getting the cages a little bit taller or figure something out there, that would be great. And again, I don't know if it's an industry thing, but it's things that we've talked about in the past, and I hope that eventually we'll get some things changed to where these guys can either sit in the cockpit a little bit deeper, or we can get a little taller cages as a standard. But it's all about weight too. You make them taller, they're going to be heavier.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see. One thing we're also going to try to do to be more proactive. We're going to start this year. Hopefully, it'll be our first annual deal where I believe at the last race of the year at Eagle Raceway, we're going to try to give away a piece of safety equipment based on how much funds we raise. So whether that's a new helmet for a low-budget guy or any guy, whether that's some new racing gloves or a Hans device, something like that, we're going to try to start doing that this year and see how that goes. And we're going to award that or give those out again at championship night at the end of the year at Eagle Raceway to help promote that.
Awesome.
Well, I know you're talking about the cage height and what. I know in the early 90s, we had a war with late model manufacturers because they were starting to tin the cockpit, and the cockpit is so small now. I mean, when I first started, there was nothing over here. It went over on the floor. Then once somebody put a little in here, and then somebody put a little more, and now you got the driver in like this. Well, then they started bringing the fairing all the way around to the shoulders, and that was just crazy. So we finally got them to stop at the steering wheel.
Yeah. Yep.
Because you couldn't get in there if the guy was upside down, you couldn't get in there to unhook his steering wheel or anything.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
I think even just recently, it came out with that fuel cell, that candy shell. I don't want to exactly say the manufacturer right now, but it's a bladderless fuel cell, and it's supposed to be unpenetrable. That first year at Nationals, we had 2 of them in the infield that were dripping. They were penetrable. They did get holes in them. But, I mean, it's just one of those deals where it's more reactive than proactive. I don't hear as many guys running those bladderless fuel cells anymore. I'm sure they're still out there, but it's one of those things where it's almost like history repeats itself every 10, 15 years or something, So I think you'll have them, and then they'll go away again, and people will remember why maybe certain things were a little bit safer than others.
Well, now it's very rare for anybody to run the foam in the fuel cell.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, again, when I was doing this back in the late 80s, that's when kind of propylene oxide was starting to get added to the fuel. And you'd see a guy go out and he'd run a lap and a half and pull in.
Mm-hmm.
Then you'd see him over working on the fuel system. Then they'd come out for the B feature, a lap and a half and pull in. The propylene oxide would eat the foam,
Yep.
which would plug up the fuel filter.
Yep.
So they're trying to cheat, and they were just, killing themselves.
Yep.
And so then, they come back the next week. Once they figured that out, you'd go over and look at the car, and where'd your foam go? We just decided not to run it anymore.
Yeah.
Well, let me go get
funny.
a test tube. We're gonna run a little test right here.
I got at least one more question, if not more, for both of you guys individually. before we get to the second annual spring training camp that's going on at Eagle Raceway, presented by the Four Corners Fire and Safety Team. If you could, Jake, I'll start with you. If you could wave a magic wand and change one thing on these cars, what would it be?
Oh, man.
I only get one thing.
And you can't say the drivers.
Yeah, I was like, that was my instinct. As soon as you said it, I was like,
Any cars. Any cars we see out there?
Yeah. You know what? This is your opportunity to address something that maybe drivers or chassis builders aren't paying attention to. And like Dirk was saying, they're pushing the limits, and this needs to change.
So for me, it's actually really simple. For me, it is some kind of fuel additive that is not going to enhance the performance of the car for the methanol. All sprint cars run methanol. The A mods have a choice if they want to run methanol or normal gasoline, and same with the late mods. We don't deal with late mods on a weekly basis, but I mean we've got 3 opportunities this year.
Yeah.
Some kind of additive that when that stuff catches on fire, and it's not on a person, because once on a person, you're burning carbon now. You can see it. Yeah. And
because it burns clear.
It burns clear. Well, I shouldn't say it burns clear. It's a blue flame that is very hard to see.
Okay.
In daylight, it's virtually impossible to see until it burns something with carbon footprint. So some of the other classes around the country, I think what Jake's getting to, mandate the drivers to do that, but then you have an issue with testing the fuel for additives that are already added.
Performance.
There. Yeah, for
performance enhancing.
Yeah.
And that blue flame doesn't come very high either.
No.
It don't jump 5 foot high like a red flame was. It's down there on the ground.
Yeah, it'll crawl around for sure.
So definitely having some kind of additive.
A marker.
A marker, yeah. We train to always assume there's a fire. But, Ben's told me that there's tracks around the country that their fire crew are T-shirts, cargo shorts, and flip-flops. So,
yeah.
And the fire extinguisher off the kitchen wall.
Right. So, that would be my one thing.
Yeah. Ben?
Mine would be just the driver's PPE and then the crew's PPE. A lot of these guys are running gloves that are years old, fire suits that are decades old. They've been washed so many times that they're not going to have much more protection than the denim jeans we're wearing. And then I like how some of the other tracks mandate that if you have an ATV or UTV run around there, it has to have a purple K fire extinguisher on it, just to help with any of those rare instances. So.
Well, by most sanctioning bodies anymore, the fire suits, the SFIs, they can't go past 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But still, even at 3 years, especially if the fire suit's being washed at home in what's the Oxy stuff?
OxyClean.
Yeah.
OxyClean.
Yeah.
Why are you going to put oxygen? Why are you going to penetrate something that burns very rapidly into your fire suit?
Yep,
Don't
exactly.
use that stuff, people.
Yeah, please don't. Definitely try to be mindful of what the manufacturer recommends. Our fire suits, we do wash them as frequently as we can. Don't get me wrong, they do get a little ripe towards the end of the year. We also are able to redip our suits in-house to help try to establish those and make them last a little bit longer.
And studies have shown that if you use plain Tide, just plain old regular Tide, it doesn't have the animal fats, it doesn't have the oils, the perfumes, the detergents, the fabric softeners, that chlorine. It's safe to use on the suits.
Yeah.
My
girlfriend
mine
and I-
all went to Maxi Walker.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And my girlfriend and I switched a couple of years ago to just about as simple as soap as you can get.
Yep.
And it's just simply that we didn't want all the additives and the chemicals, and it hurts the laundry, and it can tarnish your clothes a little bit. So we switched to that years ago, and when we first switched, I was like, I'm going to start smelling more. It's amazing how little it takes to clean your clothes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just you don't need all that crap that they toss in there, and
Absolutely.
just like the fire suits. All right, let's get to it. Let's talk about the second annual spring training event going on at Eagle Raceway, Sunday, April 7th.
Yeah, sure is. So it's going to be probably a longer day for some of us. It'll start in the morning. We have a couple of breakout sessions. We learned a lot from last year about how we're going to organize it a little bit stronger as far as putting people in groups so we have manageable sizes when we're at each breakout event. And then after those 2 breakout events, we'll do lunch, which is provided by us free of charge for all people that are involved in the training and sign up, pre-register for it. And then if there's any leftovers and spectators, we'll just keep, make sure we don't have any leftovers to take home, I suppose. And then in the afternoon, we'll finish up with our last 2 breakout sessions, followed up with that guest speaker with Jay from MedStar coming down from South Dakota, or actually he's coming back up from Oklahoma that weekend, doing some stuff, so it happened to work out real well.
So you guys teaching like the pass system? I mean, that's what I learned when I went through fire training with NASCAR.
Yeah, definitely the pass, that point aim, squeeze, sweep stuff with extinguishers. Distance is a big deal nowadays too, I feel like with those. We do all of our own in-house maintenance and things like that on them, so we like to make sure they got plenty of pressure in them. We'll also teach the different types of fuels that are out there, how to address them. One thing I feel like a little more unique about the racing car world is we get there so fast that everything's still pretty hot. So not only do we extinguish the fire, but we cool off the ignition source, which is the heat. So that's why we have those silver extinguishers. We call them silver bullets. They'll have a water foam mixture in them as well. So we try to cool them off before they ignite, but if they have ignited, the purple K extinguisher we'll teach in the class. We'll extinguish it, and then you cool it off with the silver bullet in the water to make sure it doesn't reignite on you, hopefully.
And that purple K tastes terrible.
Yeah, I'll take
Quit drinking it.
I got a mouthful. I was working a truck race in Kansas City 20 years ago, give or take, early 2000s. And the truck in front of me, I was coming around from checking the outside tires during the pit stop. I was coming between the 2 trucks. That one was getting ready to leave, but his truck had died. When he fired it up, it backfired. It hit the gas that it spilled out. Mm-hmm. So, boom, big flame right there. It's getting on top of the fuel guy. And so the fireman guy was right there, and he purple can it, but it hit the concrete and right up underneath the back of that truck and I got a face full of that stuff. Oh, that was nasty.
I've had the opportunity to work down there at Kansas City a couple times on pit wall and stuff. And the one thing I always took for granted is you never really see it on TV. When they're dropping those 5 lug nuts, they literally just drop.
Yeah.
So when they take off, they are like rockets. And they ding, ting, and now I can see why they got fires everywhere, because those things are like bullets, and there's raw fuel everywhere.
I got hit in the back one time at Richmond. And we're back at the motel that night. I'm taking my shirt off, my uniform to go get in the shower, and my room, dude, what happened to your back? I'm like, what? I'm walking in the bathroom, and right in the middle, this bruise is like this big, and right in the middle, you see the lug nut.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But I never felt it when it happened. My adrenaline was pumping, Yeah. Another time, I got hit by one, and I wasn't paying attention. It was my fault. It just put me on my knees.
Yep. Yeah.
It's the little thing you don't even realize that those kinds of things happen is when they and drop the lug nut. Ideal situation is it rolls over the wall and there's no issue. But
That's
9 times out of 10,
RPM.
one of them's going to roll forward into the tire tracks, and when they drop the car and burn out, it goes right out the back of the car.
Those 10 lug nuts or those 10 bullets are still sitting there where the front tires, whereas the back one's going through it.
I think the new ones now, they stay locked into the gun, right?
Yeah.
When they
the single ones.
when they pop it, it stays in there. They change the tire and then they put it right back on again. So there's that they've eliminated that.
Yeah, with the exception of some of the ARCA and Busch Series guys, but
it's only
the Busch,
cup.
Xfinity truck and ARCA still got the 5 lug nuts.
Yeah, and then I always thought it was kind of cool too when the street sweeper came by at the end there and picked all those things up, and they'd dump in just buckets of lug nuts. I'm like, whoa.
Well, and the first couple of years we went down, they would every pit box would set like an Army surplus ammo container full of those things, and you could buy them for a buck or a couple of bucks or whatever.
I'd go to the crew chief or the guys I knew. Yeah. When I worked the series, I would take a lug nut out of the first pit stop. There'd be one against the wall. I'd suck it in my pocket, and I'd get back to the motel and take the Sharpie, February whatever, Daytona, vehicle number whatever. So I got this big bowl, 80, 90 lug nuts. And then when I started doing this with him, I'd say, well, I'm going to go get some lug nuts. He goes, what? And I said, the fans will like them, So we used to give them away and whatnot, but now we can't even collect them anymore.
It's funny, those little things that, like, it was a cool idea, and we did it for a long time, and now I'm kind of like, man, I wish we would have gotten more of those, because now it's like we're not going to be able to get them in the Cup Series. We have to get them out of Xfinity and trucks. But, I've still got the little one you made of me for Stuart Haas Racing.
He's a big Stuart Haas guy, so one of the races I went and got all the 4 Stuart. It was last year Tony was running.
Okay, yep.
And I got all 4 of them, and I put them on a dowel pin, and they're all marked up whose they were. And then I put ends on it, so a nice little display. Another guy was a Ford guy, so I think that year I had to get 12 for him, Jim Laughlin.
Oh, yeah.
Put him on a dowel pin, made the nice display for him.
Yeah. I still got a handful at home. I've given some away out to some family members and things like that because they are kind of neat. They're the yellow and you can see the glue on them, and when you can know who they came from and stuff. So yeah, that's neat.
I've got tools. I've got all kinds of stuff that came. Spring rubbers. I got it all.
Nice.
All right, let's keep back at the event going on April 7th. It's kind of an awkward thing for you guys to say, hey, all you other safety teams out there, come learn from us.
Sure.
Because that can very easily be construed as, well, we're better than you, so come learn how we're doing things. And even though I'm up in the booth telling everybody, these guys are better than your safety crew at your track, I'm sure you're proud of your safety team, and I'm sure they're great. But when it comes to safety, it's going to go both ways. You guys are going to teach some things, but you're probably also going to learn some things because maybe from somebody from US 30 is saying, hey, we've had this issue, and you guys are like, we've never had that before. That's a great idea.
Yeah, come share with us.
One of the things that last year we said, and we've done some other trainings like in Beatrice and Fairbury, and we've always said that this is a way to do it. This is another tool to put in your toolbox. Because not all tools are created equal, and you have to have certain tools for certain jobs, even screwdrivers, right? So when you approach it from that mindset, then I feel like it kind of takes that stigmatism that we're puffing our chests out and we're bigger and better than you. We're not. I mean, at the end of the day, fire is fire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You put the wet stuff on the hot stuff.
And that's another reason why I like when guys come down. I mean, I see Bobby Lincoln over here, and I remember being a little bit younger, watching him and some of his guys do what they do out there at US 30, and I always thought those Blazer trucks were so dang cool the way they had them all set up. And we all started somewhere, and that's why even some of our guys are pretty green, and they're learning just as much as we are. And I never want to stop learning for us and for our crews that are out there. And then the other big part, just like Jake touched on, is I mean, we all need to be humble. It's things that we've done and that's worked for us, and we want to share that. And maybe they can share some things that work from us. And then the other thing is like bringing in Jay. I don't know about you guys, but anytime you're 100 miles away from home or more, you're automatically an expert in your field. So it's one of those deals when we go to places, we're seen as experts, and then we bring other people in, they kind of echo some of the same things, and that people take those in different perspectives. So we look forward to seeing new faces this year, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
Well,
we actually are going to have some new faces. It's more micro and the micro sprints and the mini sprint guys, and there's a bunch of guys from the Nebraska Figure 8 that are coming to learn, and I think that's awesome because we deal with oval track and these cars are going 90 some miles an hour, but a Figure 8, it's just as dangerous. It's pretty much the same thing. I know our county fair, there's a guy that's up by Columbus, and his Figure 8 car is an old sports mod. So, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So, we got through the second annual spring training event going on at Eagle Raceway starting at 8 a.m. That's check-in on Sunday, April 7th. You can find out more information on that. Number 4, Corners, Fire, and Safety on Facebook. The event flyer is there. Information about it. You can also get a hyperlink there to be able to get registered, get more information. It is a free event.
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
2 other things I want to make sure to cover. The first one is you guys have taken on a pretty big task this year.
Yes.
Talking about bag and tag towing.
Yes, sir, we have. So my wife and I have started a new book, a new chapter in life, bag and tag towing. It's not just for the racetrack. We're actually doing this full-time as a career path as well. So we're looking pretty forward to it. Had a fun little story on getting some of our equipment, but we can share that some later time. But we have some pretty big shoes to fill. A couple of those guys are going to come back and help us get started with some transition period. We were able to work with Roger and Racine and Eagle Raceway to partner up on bringing Big Red back. So there'll be some familiar equipment out there as well as some new trucks out there as well. But we're super excited for it. We're going to try some new things, and I hope we can just keep the show going and no one's waiting on us too long, I guess.
Obviously, some big shoes to fill with the I already forgot their names. Auto Connection Tow Crew.
Yeah.
They're in the past. Who cares about Kurt and those guys anymore?
Yeah, Kurt, Brian, Will, and them. And yeah, Kevin Anderson, him and I had a pretty good conversation when we went and picked up Big Red, and it was neat to hear about this, 30-plus years that truck's been out there doing things,
Yeah.
and then the different staffing and culture changes through the years. And to be honest, we are still, asking for people to want to come out and help us fill those roster spots on the tow crew as well as the fire and safety crew, because a lot of our fire safety guys are going to be pulling double duty, including myself, obviously driving a tow truck and running around with fire extinguisher probably at the same time.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes.
We will see how it goes. Good luck to you guys this year. I know that you're going to have a very supportive crowd, fan base, ready to go. And listen, if you guys got to take your time and get it done right, I'm always going to encourage the fans to have another cold one while we wait. So I'll make an entertainment out of it. If you guys need to take an extra couple of minutes to get the car hooked up right, I got your backs.
For sure.
Get on those tech guys and make sure they got those tow chains bolted on.
There we go. Yeah.
And feel free, if you want to play 3 blind mice while we're out there doing stuff, go for it.
Got to send that to Kurt Merrill. I got to do
that. It might just happen once or twice for sure.
It sometimes feels like it.
Yeah. I've had the pleasure of watching you guys work, and it's impressive because there is definitely a communication and no egos involved. Get the job done. This is what you need to go do, and everybody just goes and does it. It's impressive.
Yep, that's where the training pays off. You're absolutely right. We try not to even have a whole lot of verbal communications. It's just visual cues. I'm knowing what he's doing. He's knowing what she's doing, and we all get together and just get the job done.
Yep.
So
last thing I want to talk about, you guys are essentially a nonprofit where you're donating a lot of your time, but it still costs money. So do you guys have any events coming up that are going to be fundraisers that we can help out with?
that's a great question. Obviously, we're going to be doing a lot of the 50-50 raffles out there at Eagle Raceway. That seems to be a really pillar in our financial support there. We do want to put together a couple of other events. We don't have all those details right now.
Okay.
We are asking a lot of our guys every Friday, Saturday, and sometimes even Sunday nights to do things. We'd love to put on another one to especially help support the benefit at the end of the year with the safety equipment giveaway. So hopefully more to come, I guess, on that and details once we get the actual event figured out and how we're going to play it. We're anticipating maybe some sort of like an ATV, UTV poker run type of deal, or maybe some sort of like a mini car show or something. We just need to figure it out for sure.
Okay.
Hey, I got one.
Yeah.
We do 2 events a year, Daytona and championship race. Let's do a 50-50 raffle at our deals. Send them the green.
I'm good with that. You guys are good with that?
Absolutely. And then, we'll get with the details, and we can definitely have a couple people show up and help support it. It's just in order to organize a whole event, it does ask a lot sometimes of our ladies and gentlemen, because we have people not just from the local area, but Jake here, he drives almost an hour every weekend to come down. So
Well, this year wouldn't have been worth a darn because they moved Daytona to Monday.
sure.
I went to Quaker Steak, and I was there.
I did. Anthony came down. Anthony and Lydia came down.
We got some people on Sunday because we do cash pools.
Nice.
$5 to get in, so a $50 pool. We had a sponsor win one. Quaker Steak puts out a book you can sign up in, and if you pick the winner and you've got the tiebreaker right, you get a $100 bill.
Yeah.
Sometimes nobody picks the winner.
Sure.
This year it was somebody that comes to most of our parties. He was the only one to pick Byron, so he
Okay.
got his 100. And
Yeah.
we had 3 pools, two for $5 and one for 10.
And we're definitely not opposed to partnering up with anybody else to do additional fundraising ideas like that or event sports. We do have a couple other community groups that help support and make donations to our Four Corners Fire and Safety group that are kind of like sponsors, basically, in a way, that do help us, buy those $800 race suits that we got to have for each one of our members, and we have some other sponsors.
Scholarship.
Yeah, and we actually give away a scholarship. Yeah, that's right. Thank you for reminding me. Every year we try to give away like a $1,500 scholarship to a Southeast Community College for someone that's doing a paramedic or EMT class as well, and we're always looking for candidates for that. So we'd like to have a little pass-through there to help support what we do and just keep growing the community.
But, yeah, I think doing that 50-50 raffle at our deal wouldn't be too hard to do. And
Nope.
Probably come up with a couple $100 a year for them.
Yeah.
Nice.
Anything would help. I'd hope
I have one announcement, if I may.
Yeah.
So, Four Corners, I don't know if you're ready for this, Ben.
Oh boy.
Did Ben know about it?
Well, he does, but he doesn't know that I'm announcing it today. Four Corners is starting a race team.
Really?
Yep.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
For CFS Racing, we're going to start in the karts. And the whole purpose behind this is to propel our mission and our purpose as our nonprofit, to encourage and instill safe racing practices with proper equipment, proper driving techniques. One of our Four Corners guys, we'll see how it goes, but he's going to be our driver this year. And we're looking forward to building it to possibly on Saturdays as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic, guys. We really appreciate the time. Please let us know if we can help with the event on a Sunday and then any other events coming down.
Yeah.
We've always got room on the front stretch for you.
Heck yeah.
Sweet.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Ben and Jake of the Four Corners Fire and Safety Team out of Eagle Raceway, make sure to check out their second annual spring training event. Sunday is April 7th, starting at 8 a.m. Check-in is at 8 a.m. The event starts at 9:30. It's going to be a great deal, and you're going to learn a lot and maybe even help raise some money for a great operation. For Dirk and I, that's going to do it in turn number 2. We're going to be right back. Bobby Lincoln, he is alive. I have seen him. His daughter got married the night before we recorded, and he's still alive. He is still alive. So